All right, let's take you back to the ANC's National Executive Committee Lekgotla underway in Boksburg. The ANC President on the podium now.
Revolution. It also helps us to recalibrate and present programs and proposals to enhance our work. So this Lekgotla, however, must have a slightly different focus. And the focus must be much more on implementation. We recently held at government level the Presidential Economic Advisory Council, and all the advisory members that include Nobel Economics laureates all collectively said one thing, and they said, South Africa's most persistent development constraint is not a lack of vision, but a gap between policy ambition and implementation. Over the past decade, they continue, the country has produced detailed strategies on industrialization, energy transition, infrastructure and SOE reform, yet delivery has been undermined by fragmented government authority, uneven capabilities across spheres of government, and limited capacity to coordinate and adapt in the face of complexity. They continue to say addressing this gap requires strengthening state capacity in a way that goes beyond organizational restructuring or compliance reforms. It requires building dynamic capabilities, the routines, the skills and institutional arrangements that allow the state to learn, to adapt, and to act effectively in conditions of uncertainty and complexity. Close quotes. The ANC recently concluded our very successful 5th National General Council, where the movement undertook a thoroughgoing assessment of the efficacy of its policies as well as its programs. Empowered by the contributions from branch delegates, who I lauded with praise because their level of debate was rather high and their contributions were very meaningful. But empowered by contributions from the leagues as well, our allies and a range of stakeholders, and buttressed by our commitment to scientific and evidence-based decision-making, the NGC adopted a range of actions and programs to enhance the lives of the people of South Africa. The ANC's 2026 January 8th statement builds on the NGC outcomes and sets out the movement's understanding of the prevailing circumstances under which we seek to achieve our national objectives. We acknowledge that 2026 will be a challenging year wherein our country and the world will be confronted with both challenges as well as opportunities. Our task will be to see the extent to which these opportunities can be exploited to advance the interests of our people. The people of South Africa will celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Constitution during this year. We celebrate the Constitution as key to South Africa's national identity and a living embodiment of our nation's transformation into a united, democratic state founded on the values of human dignity and striving for the achievement of equality and advancement of human rights and freedoms. At various notable and important points throughout our history as a country, South Africans have turned to dialogue and engagement to solve complex and vexing issues. South Africans will participate in the national dialogue process this year, and through this process will have a say in the direction of our country, like they did in the drafting of the Freedom Charter in the 50s and the drafting of our Constitution, our country's birth certificate, through the 90s. 2026 is also the year of local government elections, and the structures of our movement must be prepared for what is likely to be a challenging contest, which we should turn into a great opportunity. The forces of right-wing imperialism, both globally and domestically, are seemingly on the offensive, and we need to ensure that our movement and our government take appropriate action to protect our nation and its people. At the same time, we must remain laser-focused on addressing the immediate socio-economic concerns of the people of South Africa. Now, intensifying this focus and moving with greater urgency to build on recent improvements, we must still work to address the triple challenge that our country has been facing since 1994, which is poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Rebuilding trust in democracy and governance, which has been squandered through years of mismanagement, of waste and corruption, especially at various levels of government, local government and other levels, and our state-owned enterprises, must be a central tenet of our program. These are some of the most important reasons why the ANC NEC decided that 2026 will be the year of decisive action to fix local government and transform the economy of our country. In defense of our Constitution, our democracy, and to build a better life for all South Africans, the ANC NEC says we must, firstly, fix local government and improve basic services, speed up economic transformation that should result in inclusive growth and job creation. Thirdly, we should wage war on crime and corruption and tackle gender-based violence and femicide as a national disaster. Fourthly, we should build a South Africa that belongs to all through the national dialogue and the 30th anniversary celebrations or commemoration of the Constitution of our country. We should go on to make organizational renewal visible and irreversible. And lastly, we must build a better Africa and a better world. Therefore, based on the assessments and proposals emanating from the 5th NGC and refined through the January 8th statement and the tasks this Lekgotla must develop, it must develop clear and implementable tasks with measurable timelines and reporting timeframes. Now, developing future programs must acknowledge the clear improvements and positive developments over the recent past, so as to use those as a foundation to build better and to enhance the capability that these improvements require. South Africa experienced notable economic improvements through 2025, marked by 4 consecutive quarters of growth, albeit at the rate that remained rather low for us to lift our economic growth ambitions. Stats SA reported declining levels of poverty and inequality, and there was a modest decrease in the unemployment rate, which remains unacceptably high, we all admit. Furthermore, the country was removed from the Financial Action Task Force grey list, and it received a sovereign credit rating upgrade for the first time in 20 years. And experienced a year almost free of load shedding. You should applaud that even more. Now, these may seem like mediocre levels or areas of progress, but they still count to build that foundation that we need to build better and to build faster. Efforts to stabilize public finances are yielding positive outcomes, recovering from the uncertainties and disagreements around the GNU 2025-2026 budget. Government's November medium-term budget statement was well received, and borrowing costs have been falling, a trend which is likely to be reinforced by the announcement of a lower inflation target. South Africa must capitalize on its recent success to bolster national and international sentiment. The administration's achievements in stabilizing the economy amid challenging global backdrop are significant. While peer countries and many developed economies continue to grapple with debt stabilization and political consensus for reforms, South Africa's progress does stand out. Financial markets have responded positively to South Africa's improving fundamentals. The rand appreciated by 12.6% against the US dollar this year, ranking among the top performing world currencies in the last quarter. Rand strength is attributed. Yes, we can do that as I take my jacket off. Rand strength is attributed to increased flows into domestic financial markets and rising commodity prices as well. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange All-Share Index rose by over 30% in 2025, and government bond yields fell by approximately 200 basis points to levels that were last seen in 2017. Foreign investor confidence in our country was reflected in the purchase of over 100 billion rand in South African government bonds during the course of 2025. Now, despite signs of improvement, our country still faces substantial challenges. Economic growth, though increasing, remains modest, and unemployment levels are persistently high. Of course, whilst we have to acknowledge that these improvements are happening, we are not yet at a point where we can go and stand on the rooftops and sing great praises about where we are. Much work still remains to be done. Notwithstanding that, we do need to recognize these and build on them. rather than trash the progress that we are making. We need to build on it and button it down to make sure that we do move forward. The security cluster in our country is in crisis. Questions persist regarding the structure of social support, and societal consensus around transformation is weakening. It is essential to maintain momentum in implementing structural changes across critical network sectors such as electricity, rail, and water. These efforts are aimed at enhancing competitiveness, efficiency, and stimulating growth and investment, but they are also important with regard to bringing prices down. Expanding infrastructure spending, both through budget allocations and developmental finance institutions, is identified as a priority. And the priority here is that we must now move with greater speed to find smart, innovative financing instruments to fund social infrastructure as we bolster up economic infrastructure. 2025 medium-term budget policy statement signaled progress in infrastructure investment. However, gross fixed capital formation remains below the target that we need. Clear infrastructure spending targets should be set, but they should also be supported by expanding project planning facilities and more active private sector involvement. And it is through this that we should crowd the private sector in and reach through the various dialogues that we are having, dialogues between business and government that go on, dialogues between labor, business, and government, crowd in the private sector to enhance the progress that we need to make. Fixing local government and improving basic services is also very important. Successive Auditor Generals and other reports have held that much of the issues at local government level are attributable to political interference. And they are also attributable to the manner in which our development process ensues, particularly with regard to how the tender system works. The AG actually says the devil is in the tendering system. The ANC must therefore be unrelenting in ensuring professional administration is insulated from political interference. Municipal governance on the whole must be capable and ethical. It is critical that municipal administration is also developmental and works with communities to meet their needs. We must therefore continue to mobilize for the implementation of the district development model throughout the country. The progress that we have registered in eThekwini through the work of the Presidential eThekwini Working Group and utilizing methods and instruments available in terms of the district development model provides a very clear roadmap for other local governments. Through the district development model, we are able, and we have seen how it works in eThekwini, and trying to engender it in Johannesburg. In eThekwini, all key stakeholders have been able to have a very strong hand in turning eThekwini around. But not only turning it around, but making sure that eThekwini, Durban particularly, regains its glory as the tourism mecca of our country. And they have been able to do it within a short space of time by utilizing the DDM method. Indicators of success in eThekwini include significant infrastructure development, especially in public transport infrastructure, reducing the number of derelict buildings, and easing the financial burdens for citizens who meet certain debt repayment criteria. The city has also begun to restore public confidence, as evidenced by increased tourism numbers over the festive season. Like elsewhere in the country, eThekwini still experiences significant challenges in the area of water and sanitation. The ANC remains adamant that ensuring water security requires an effort similar to what was expended to address load shedding. Our focus must therefore be on water. On the other hand, there has been slower than expected progress in the city of Johannesburg, where officials and stakeholders must improve and accelerate their cooperation to make meaningful progress in addressing citizens' concerns. ANC structures, ANC members, as well as progressive formations, must heighten their participation in the review of the White Paper on Local Government, because its outcomes must strengthen intergovernmental interaction and cooperation, as well as the ability of our municipalities to meet developmental objectives. The ANC Action Plan on Local Government reinforces our constitutional imperative that the movement must be grounded amongst the people. It sets out clear requirements for community engagement, for door-to-door work, and consistent and dynamic communication with constituents. Now, these tasks, which are also confirmed in our January 8th statement of reconnecting with constituencies, become even more important when considering the massive effort that will be required to rebuild trust between the ANC and the people of our country before the forthcoming local government elections. Now, as a movement, we will have to ensure that the ANC fills candidates with the requisite skills and of the highest integrity during the local government elections. All candidates will have to undergo mandatory political education, including completing the compulsory ethics course. And if we really want to show up the fortunes of the ANC in the local government elections, we must not cut corners and we must not take chances. And the usual tendencies that we have had of deploying people on a factional basis must be foregone. This election is going to be important. The interests of the people, comrades, must be primary in everything that we do in the forthcoming local government elections. But we must also speed up economic transformation, and we must also ensure that there is inclusive growth and job creation. At the ANC-led government, we have made important progress in rebuilding various aspects of our economy. In the wake of state capture, the COVID-19 pandemic, and persistent load shedding, we have embarked on the structural transformation of those parts of our economy that enable economic activity, including the electricity sector, the logistics sector, water, telecommunications sectors as well. Through legislative and regulatory changes, we have enabled massive new investment in these sectors, starting with electricity generation and telecommunications, and now moving into logistics and then our ports. We have created conditions for more competitive and efficient industries while ensuring that strategic assets remain publicly owned and regulated. We have, in this regard, done what we've done in the past. Now, there's usually an accusation, and some of it is whispered in the corridors of our movement, that we have become so neoliberal that we are privatizing state assets. I say now and here, we are not privatizing anything. What we are doing is to bring in partners who have money, like we did when we built the N3, when we built the N4, the major traveling arteries of our country. We brought the private sector in to improve those roads so that travel in our country can be efficient. Those roads were not privatized. They remain the property of the people of South Africa. When those who were given the right as concessionaires to develop those roads, when that period comes to an end, the entire road administration comes back to the state. What we are now doing, because our state-owned enterprises, Eskom, Transnet and others, do not have the balance sheet to support great development. We are now roping in the private sector on a concession basis to run certain aspects. It is like build, operate, and transfer. And through this, we are bringing in massive investments into our logistics, into our rail, and also now going forward for our transmission extension for 14,000 kilometers. We will bring in the private sector to invest and to work alongside with us. We have created conditions for more, as I said, competitive and efficient industries while ensuring that these strategic assets remain publicly owned and regulated. In the year ahead, we need to consolidate and accelerate these transformational actions that we have embarked upon. We have built up the capacity of the state to plan, finance and implement infrastructure projects now at scale, and have directed substantial public funding towards infrastructure. The 1 trillion rand that has been committed to infrastructure over the next 3 years is unprecedented in the history of our country. We have also made changes to enable greater private sector investment in infrastructure, to simplify the process of establishing public-private partnerships. We have agreed as the ANC that we need to use this massive investment in infrastructure to support local suppliers, to grow our construction and related industries, to provide opportunities for Black and women and youth-owned enterprises, and to create sustainable jobs. In the year ahead, we need to give greater attention to building small, medium, and micro enterprises, and also need to pay more attention to the informal sector. This means freeing these businesses from onerous regulatory requirements, providing incentives for them to grow and hire, and to better direct financial support to where it can be most productively used. I look forward to the discussions that we will have in the commissions about enhancing this work. It is generally known that greater employment comes from small and medium enterprises. They are nimble, they are fast, they are agile, and they are able to create a number of people with greater ease. So let us lay more emphasis on how we can enhance the small-medium enterprise sector. Through the work we have done over the last few years, led by the ANC, we have built up significant momentum. We have seen real signs of improvement, much as it is a bit tenuous. We now need to strengthen the improvement that we are seeing in a number of areas. The program that emerges from this Lekgotla must not only sustain that momentum, but ensure that progress is faster and more meaningful. This must be the year in which all South Africans feel the benefits of the progress that has been made. We need to double up when it comes to waging war on crime and corruption, and also how we should double up on tackling gender-based violence and femicide, now that we've declared it as a disaster. Our efforts to turn the economy around and improve the quality of life of South Africans is undermined by persistently high levels of crime, violence, and corruption. We can point to many achievements in this area. We have done much to rebuild the capabilities, the integrity, and the credibility of our law enforcement agencies in the wake of state capture. We have established bodies like the NPA Investigating Directorate Against Corruption and the SIU Special Tribunal, and we are seeing the results of their work in cases brought to the court and stolen assets being recovered. We have established specialized multidisciplinary teams to tackle infrastructure crime, illegal mining, gangsterism, and other types of crime. There are areas where we've seen some progress. However, the progress we need to make must be seen and felt by South Africans. So there is still a gap, and we need to therefore do more. Because most South Africans have yet to feel the effects of this work. Their confidence is further undermined by the evidence that is before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and the ad hoc committee, hearing allegations of the infiltration of the police by criminal syndicates. In 2026, this needs to change. South Africans need to see action being taken to prevent crime and to bring those responsible to book. Communities need to be mobilized through our community policing forums and other means. And the community policing forums themselves need to be resourced and empowered. Where they are well-resourced, we find that community members on a voluntary basis do excellent work in combating crime in their area. We must use the findings and the recommendations of the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee to decisively tackle areas where there is rot in our criminal justice system. Similarly, the progress we have made in implementing the pillars of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide has not yet had an impact on the levels of violence against women and children. The decision to classify gender-based violence and femicide as a national disaster gives us a good opportunity to better focus and coordinate efforts that need to be taken through various institutions and especially government institutions to deal with this scourge. As the ANC, we need to mobilize across society to make a real difference. We must follow the leadership of the ANC Women's League, which has been at the forefront of this fight. And once again, we applaud women. Now, another important task that we do have in 2026 is to build a South Africa that belongs to all through the national dialogue, but also through the commemoration of the 30th anniversary of our Constitution. The Freedom Charter, which President O.R. Tambo characterized as setting out the sum total of our aspirations and the road towards a new life, remains the ANC's lodestar. The Freedom Charter laid out a vision for a non-racial, democratic, and just South Africa. It became a moral and ideological foundation for the anti-apartheid struggle and later influenced our country's constitution. As acknowledged in the January 8th statement, the Constitution is both revolutionary and transformative and advances the objectives of the National Democratic Revolution, firstly with regard to building a South African nation united in its diversity, and secondly to build a democratic and developmental state that meets the needs of our people, and thirdly to build a transformed, inclusive and thriving economy that works for all South Africans, and finally to build a united, non-racial, non-sexist and democratic and prosperous society based on the best of human values. So therefore, as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of our Constitution, we must use this opportunity to link the promotion of constitutional democracy to the defense of the values such as adherence to rule of law and the promotion of social and national cohesion. The national dialogue process will bring all South Africans together to discuss the challenges our country faces and will help in defining a common vision of a shared future through the crafting of a compact. We need to make progress with regard to renewing the ANC. The ANC can only be able to achieve all these tasks if it is renewed, but it can only do so if its own renewal is visible and irreversible. The ANC's January statement is correct when it says renewal must be both personal and organizational. As individual members, we have both rights and duties, and chief amongst those is to always represent the best values of our movement. And this requires each and every member to show in their own daily lives and in interacting with society that they live according to the principles that they have embraced as members of the ANC. Organizational renewal is an ongoing process that continues to show variable progress. Unless we deepen and accelerate this progress across the ANC and the Alliance, our organization will definitely perish. The ANC must continue work to deepen political education across the organization as this builds and enhances leadership and governance capacity at all levels. Holding elected leaders, public representatives and deployees accountable must become even more entrenched. This is why continued adherence to and enforcement of the accountability framework that we adopted in 2025 is important. Crucially, we must enforce principled and predictable consequence management for non-performance and conduct. What this should mean is that if we are given tasks and we don't perform those tasks, in my book, there's only one way to deal with this. You either do what you are meant to do or you move out so that others can do the task. It's a simple one. As reiterated by the 2022 National Conference and reinforced by our recent NGC, the ANC must once again become rooted amongst our people. We must specifically eradicate the social distance between the ANC leaders and people who are that we are meant to serve. To do so, the January 8 statement sets out the task of rolling out a nationwide campaign to rebuild every branch into an activist branch. And part of this campaign involves widespread community engagement to solve community problems and promote community development and safety. And when you think about this, this is quite a simple thing to do. I saw it at close range in Northwest with one branch, Ward 21, where these comrades in a branch are so deeply entrenched and involved in the life of the entire community, where the ANC is clearly seen as the leader of that community, where even members of other parties acknowledge that the ANC leads, because whenever there's any issue to be addressed of a community nature, including a family nature, the ANC is the go-to organization. The ANC leaders are the go-to leaders. If a woman is raped, they are the first to be there, to console, to take action to see that there's a report to the police and the perpetrator is handed over to the police. If there is a death in any part of the community, they are the first to arrive to give assistance. When the schools open, they are the first at the school to assist children from indigent families. When a family cannot pay electricity or water, they are the first to get involved to assist that family to get on the indigent register. When there's a pothole in front of a particular house, they are the first to go out there and ensure that the pothole is closed. When companies in the surrounding area require people to work, they are able to put people on a WhatsApp group and say, there are jobs that are open and we want applicants to come across. So they work as an employment agency, they work as a funeral agency, they work as everything. And regular meetings are held. They hold meetings regularly with the entire community. And no wonder when elections come, that whole ward will be the very first to go and vote for the candidate that should lead them overwhelmingly, and they will vote for the ANC. That is the type of activist ANC branch that we want. And when you look at it optically, you find that it is so easy to do. The branch works as a cohesive unit. There's no factionalism. They work together. And yes, when elections come, they know who is the best, who can take the work of the branch or the ward forward. So that, comrades, is the type of ANC branch we must now all go out and build. And this is the year in which we can do it even more. That branch does not even need to do door-to-door, because the people in the doors just come to community meetings. That branch does not even need to go hailing or whatever. They have a network of communicating with every household. This is the way to build an ANC branch. Now, if you flash back to the 50s, to the 40s, the program of action that was crafted by our forebears mirrors precisely this. The M plan that Comrade Madiba engendered mirrors exactly that. And that is why during the 50s, we were able as a movement to reach high levels of activism, high levels of the ANC having an impact on the lives of our people. Let us yearn to go back to those days. Being engaged, comrades, in these community-wide campaigns will also allow greater opportunity to spread the message about the progressive ideas of the ANC. Renewal also speaks to renewal of the alliance, including bringing the discussion of reconfiguration of the alliance to finality. We are honored to have members of the alliance at this Lekgotla, and we will be hearing them soon. The ANC will, as mandated by the NGC, continue to seek to unite the alliance and develop a common approach. All ANC members will be required, as per our constitution, to campaign for the victory of the African National Congress in the forthcoming local government elections. That is what is going to be required. And on this issue, there should be no confusion. You're an ANC member, you campaign for your organization. There seems to be some doubt. Is there doubt about this? So all our energies must be geared towards defending, consolidating, and advancing the NDR, both domestically and globally. This naturally includes winning the local government elections decisively. And our other important, as I conclude, important task is to build a better Africa and a better world. The continent, our continent, that is, faces numerous challenges, not only with regard to conflicts that are continuing, but humanitarian crises are also getting worse. In the Sudan, due to the war, human catastrophe of an unprecedented nature is unfolding there. In Mozambique, due to the floods that are just causing a great deal of death and havoc, internal threats to the safety of the people of Mozambique in the northern part, in Mali, in Nigeria, they all remain. Our disputes amongst ourselves continue, whether it is in the DRC, in Rwanda, or Egypt and Ethiopia over the Nile, and internal Somalian long-standing tensions, or South Sudan instability. All these areas of tensions are simmering and they require our attention. External interference is fueling these conflicts, not resolving them, all motivated by a scramble for the resources beneath the African soil. Military capacity on the continent is constrained, and this negatively affects our ability to find African solutions for African problems. It is critical that we engage with our partners regularly, particularly the AU, SADC, and attend, when invited, COMESA, the EAC meetings. We must be present in fora where African problems are discussed so we can influence the outcome. We can and should push for the negotiated solutions of all these conflicts. It is in the interest of our country and our beloved continent as a whole. Stability will see our economies growing, and silencing the guns must continue to be prominent in everything we do. Our commitment, comrades, to the international rules-based order, multilateralism, and negotiated settlement of disputes is reflected on our engagements beyond our own continent. This includes our position with regard to the genocide in Gaza, the war in Ukraine, the attack on Venezuela's sovereignty, and the continued colonization of Western Sahara and the future of Cuba. Increasingly, the world is converging that the current multilateral system is inadequate and very likely incapable of dealing with global power shifts and complex crises. Our country and organization must therefore ensure that global realignments and reorganization of the multilateral system is representative, as we have always said, it is effective, and it is based on inclusion. This requires cooperation as well as coordination with especially like-minded countries for the protection and advancing of the interests of the Global South. Comrades, it bears not repeating that this will be a challenging year, but there are also a number of opportunities before us. We have seen the worst of what we can be. We are now seeing that progress can be made. We are now pivoted on a position where we can surge forward and address the challenges that our movement faces, but also the challenges that our country faces. We have the opportunity to strengthen social cohesion in celebrating the 30th anniversary of our Constitution. The overwhelming majority of South Africans see our constitutional democracy as the key to being South African. We must build on this and link the promotion of constitutional democracy to the defense of sovereignty and promotion of national interests. We have the opportunity to strengthen social cohesion through the national dialogue. There are also opportunities for building new and deepening existing economic and social and cultural partnerships in the alignments and realignments that are taking place around the world. We will talk about this in the commissions, about trade matters and all that. In all this, we must remain steadfast and principled. The ANC must be clear that our main task for this year is to fix local government and to fundamentally transform our economy, and all our actions must be geared just towards this. And sometimes we are tempted to try and do everything. If we can focus on these, all the other tasks or issues fall into place. So this must make sure that we do come out of this with an implementation plan, a clear template that will then be taken to government so that we start off the year much more effectively. Thank you, comrades.
The ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa addressing the first ANC NEC Lekgotla for 2026, touching on a number of issues, repeating that 2026 will be a challenging year for the country and the world, confronted by a number of challenges, basically saying that they should be looking at opportunities which can be exploited for South Africa's people, calling on the structures of the ANC to be ready for the challenging contest in the upcoming elections. He mentioned that it would be challenging, also saying that the ANC needs to remain focused on addressing some of the key socio-economic challenges concerning South Africans. That's poverty, unemployment and inequality, and saying that for 2026, for the ANC, it's a year of decisive action. And while South Africa had experienced notable economic growth last year, that was at a slow rate, and the interests of the people, most importantly, should be put forward in speeding up economic transformation, talking about infrastructure, 1 billion for infrastructure made available. And in the year ahead, he says that greater attention should also be given to building SMMEs as well as the informal sector. Speaking about the ad hoc committee and the Madlanga commissions, of course, into interference, of course, in the criminal justice system, talking about, the recommendations that may come from that should deal with areas where there has been proven rot. In essence, there should be some action, doubling up on attacking crime, violence and corruption, and holding elected representatives accountable, talking about the renewal of the ANC, saying that is still an ongoing project and that the ANC must be rooted in the people. That's the first Lekgotla of the ANC's NEC. Crucial ahead of the local government elections. In fact, the ANC president mentioning that if the ANC is not seen to be rooted in the people in dealing with some of the pressing issues, that the ANC will perish. Those are his words.